Hey, what's going on, guys? I wanted to do a quick update to the Kyle build that I dropped on a little while ago. There have been some changes and some information that I found out recently that kind of changed something, but for the most part, it's largely the same. I do want to go over with that with you guys just to correct it. I don't want that information. I don't want incorrect information to be out there if I can avoid it. So yeah, let's go ahead and get started. All right, so there are a few things I want to go over when it comes to the build. This is probably gonna be the last update I make for the build. I think Kyle is pretty much set. I don't know if there's any other. I don't know if there are any other changes you can make to play him more optimally. And I kind of like where he is right now in terms of my gearing for him. So the first thing I want to talk about though is whether or not the Slayer set will give you more damage versus the pure shield setup like I currently have. And after doing some testing, the Slayer set does yield more damage at the top end. So after you have full stacks of Secret Garden. Otherwise, at 100% magnetic force, both perform very similarly. They're like within, I don't know, like point, like 5% or something, with the Slayer being a little worse. But then afterwards, once you get the buff from the Secret Garden, you actually end up getting more damage from the Slayer set than you would with the full shield build. Another thing to keep in mind is that it's the full shield build does trail behind when you're at values lower than like 90%, 90 to 80% magnetic force. So anything below that, the Slayer set will still do more damage. But again, it's not a significant amount. We're talking like less than 10% in most ranges, so you're fine. Less than 10%. Actually, I wouldn't even say 10%. Probably even less than that. Probably like 5% at any given range at its worst. So with that said, I still think the full health or full shield is better, simply because you get around 9,000 or like 8,500 more shield than the Slayer set would provide to you. I think having that extra shield is more important than having, a negligible amount of damage. But if you can't get the gear right now, the components right now, then I would say just go for the Slayer set for now, and then adjust as necessary as you move along the line. The next thing I want to talk about when it comes to gearing is in my last video, I said that the best in slot stats for your reactor were going to be non-attribute skill power boost and additional tactical losses. Or if you were bossing, that was wrong. If you're trying to absolutely min max, then the optimal reactor stats with the Secret Garden mounting would be tech skill power boost and additional tactical losses. Tech skill power boost will give you a little bit more damage than the non-attribute boost would, because of how the reactor damage and damage buckets work. If you're unsure of how they work, like I was before I made the video, then there's a video from Vash that I'll link below. You guys can check out where he maths everything out and tells you why certain values are better. But essentially, what it comes down to is that they're their own separate buckets, and adding to the tech power boost bucket will give you more damage than if you were to add to the already kind of full bucket of the non-attribute power boost. So that's one change that I will say you should make from the previous video. Another thing I was talking about in the comment section when it came to the build would be the Peacemaker. The Peacemaker is a damage decrease over Secret Garden in every metric. It seems good on paper, but the Secret Garden boost to skill power is just far better than the boost you would get from the Peacemakers, like 43% to a non-attribute. Again, it's because of how damage buckets work. So the Peacemaker isn't better in that sense. It also isn't better in terms of just an overall DPS perspective, because it is a hand cannon. Hand cannons do have more damage per hit, but you will just get more damage in general, just from just pure firearm damage from the Secret Garden, because of the buff it gives to firearm attack and just the rate of fire and everything. It's just a better weapon overall. I would say that the Peacemaker is actually easier to get if you have a decent team to farm. If you have a decent team to farm Gluttony with, because the pieces drop pretty reliably, versus having to go, do a bunch of outposts for some of the Secret Garden materials. But overall, though, I would go for, if you're trying to min max and get the best weapon for him, then I would say the Secret Garden is where it's at. Another thing people have been talking about would be Dangerous Ambush versus Multi-Talented. Dangerous Ambush will give you more damage when a Colossus is down than Multi-Talented will, that's for sure. The thing I don't like though is that dangerous ambush is conditional. It's very conditional. Whereas multi-talented, you can, as long as you're keeping track of where your buffs are, then multi-talented is really easy to keep track of and to keep up. I also think that over the course of a period of time, that multi-talented will win out simply because you can cast your form more often and more frequently, which is a pretty big deal. So without multi-talented, you end up getting like a 15-second cooldown versus like a 6-second cooldown. So that means you can cast it pretty much twice as often, a little over twice as often when compared to dangerous ambush. And over the course of like a 3 to 4 minute fight, I think it adds up over time versus having the damage boost from dangerous ambush. So I think multi-talented is better in most cases. Dangerous ambush, I think multi-talented is better in most cases. I think dangerous ambush is better if you have a team to farm with and you're trying to get like really good bursts. Like you guys are, you can reliably get a like a knockdown or an immobilization on a Colossus, so that way you can take advantage of dangerous ambush more often than not. Otherwise, in general, like multi-talented is just better. Finally, the last thing I want to talk about is there is this weird discourse on like not just YouTube, but just or in the community in general, where people keep pitting Ajax against Kyle or Kyle versus Ajax, and I think it's a really weird comparison to make. If you want to play a character that can just like sit there and tank things, then yeah, I would play Ajax. Ajax makes it very easy to tank things. The thing is though, that's about all Ajax has going for him, right? Like the damage potential from Kyle is always going to be higher, specifically because of his four. Ajax won't be able to do anything. He will not be able to do nearly as much damage with any of his abilities simply because of how Kyle works. If we're looking at it from a pure damage perspective, even without skills, then like realistically, they're both going to do the same with the same weapons. Give or take like I don't know, like 2 or 3%. So yeah, Kyle may not be able to tank as effectively as Ajax can, but he can tank, you know, pretty close in terms of efficacy while having more damage. So I prefer Kyle over Ajax because of that reason. Um, people say that Ajax also just is easier to play, and that's true. I don't disagree. Ajax is easier to play, but every character is going to have their kit and how to play their kit optimally, and I think using that as an argument for why somebody is good or bad is weird. Glay for instance is a little harder to play than Lepic, but Glay's damage potential is higher than Lepic's is in all content of the game. I mean, Lepic, yeah, it will have a higher burst, but Glay will just have insane damage all throughout. And she can be a little more complicated to play than Lepic, but that's not really. You're not going to say that Glay is a bad damage dealer or a bad character simply because of that, right? Like, it doesn't really make sense to me. Another thing that's weird is like tanking in and of itself isn't really that important. And what I mean by that is that tanking, like with no reliable way to taunt or to pull aggro, tanking is irrelevant, right? Because when it comes to intercepts, you can avoid most forms of damage, and if you can, then you should. It's really simple. Like it's a really simple concept. Like yeah, being able to tank it's pretty cool. You can stand there, eat the hits, cool, whatever. But if you don't have to, then you shouldn't, right? Like I mean, there's no instance where getting hit is going to be better than not getting hit, right? So I think it's just like it's a really weird comparison to make. Even with all that said, though, my opinion, and this may be biased, is just that Kyle is the better character. He may require a little more, but I think he's the better character in general, just in terms of damage, in terms of efficacy, and in terms of boss fights. Maybe for other content, Ajax is better. He may be a little faster, maybe more mobile, and like may have better mobbing skills, sure. But when it comes to the content that I do, I think Kyle is better. So there's that. I mean, not that again, play with whoever you have the most fun with though. It's a video game. Like it's cool. Like I'm not gonna sit here and make a tier list for you guys and be like, oh yeah, this character is the one you should play. No, play whatever is most fun to you, but at the same time recognize that each character comes with their own set of skills and their own skill set that that may not fit your particular playstyle. Again, this is the last update I'm going to do when it comes to Kyle builds. If they do fix the bug that's on his superconductive bombing, then I will probably revisit it. But until then, I think he is at a point now where he's solved. There are other characters I want to look into. I am looking forward to Ultimate Freyna. I was going to do a guide on Jaber, but after the Kingsguard Lance buff and after playing him, I am definitely not looking forward to playing him or trying anything with him until they rework him. He's just as a character, he's kind of like uh just not viable. Or okay, I don't see not viable, but he's not effective, and that I don't want to play somebody that isn't like even remotely effective. Like you don't have to be like 80 levels of effective, but not being like effective in general, probably not the move for me. If there are any characters you kind of want me to look into, let me know. I don't mind. I'm still unlocking some of them, but I have most as of right now. Yeah, you guys take care. Have a good night, good morning, good whatever, wherever you guys are. I'll catch you guys next time. Bye.